Be the blue guy. Oh, unfortunately, it seems like this young man is busy at the moment. Not to worry. You see, we aren't allowed to be the blue guy just yet. In fact, it's actually time for us to be this purple girl. Bailing out is not an option. You've already impeded on this troll's parade ground, and now you're stuck here with her. Ugh, more than you would be if you had been placed in a 1,000-sweep chokehold. Just bring it, you chuckle fucker. Enter name. Enter name? That's one real fucking gag you've got going on. You must have a very active imagination. Better knock that off before you're Nelson so fully, you won't know if your body has contorted into a salted, twisty bread, or if your limbs have always been this unattached. Your name is Taz. Just Taz. Of course, you do have a longer and more conventional name, as per your planet's time-honored 6-letter tradition. You simply refuse to use it for the very justified reason of it fucking sucks. Luckily for you, nicknames are a rather common occurrence. Given the way that the nursery accouchement golems drop you into the denomination loge to piece together a personal moniker before you even have fully developed motor skills. Predictably, a good portion of the resulting designations end up being nothing more than unintelligible, jumbled letters with no meaning. Which suits you just fine, as it has let you coast along with your name of choice over the sweeps with nary a raised eyebrow. Your religious alliance lies with the Mirtha Maniacs, a specific breed of rough-housing wrestler-esque personas that wish to further their ideology of righteous judgment against those who would perpetuate the corruption running amok in the fabric of society. This is nothing but a duplicitous way of promoting their perverse choreographed and fighting grudge matches in order to decide who truly deserves a spot at the top of the ladder, with blessings of the two above. You're more inclined to think of these matches as nothing more than a way to keep biased feud grievances slaughtering out of the public eye. But it isn't your place to say what's wrong and what's right. It is what it is, and everybody's got a price. You haven't made a persona of your own yet, nor do you intend to. You're not about to sacrifice your selfhood for a goofy chant and some tight spandex, even if you're meant to admire those who have done so. Despite this, you still hold a rather important position in the Creed due to your inherited intimidation chalka voodoo that is almost always active. You're also the disgruntled owner of an ever-increasing collection of rustic torture weaponry, most of which you've won as trophies. You spend a significant amount of time trying to figure out how they function in combat, so you can take your opponents out as quickly as possible. You have an unsteady relationship with the majority of your childhood friend group, which you more or less keep in contact with. The exception being the one and only person who can somehow magically pacify your seething disposition. Your troll tag is pernicious overkill, and you speak in a manner that is way too abrasive for your own good. What will you do? Taz, bet the rock. Can't you see he's sleeping? You can't just do something like that to the brains behind your tag team duo. You refuse. He deserves his rest. You may not have a problem with disturbing people in most situations, if circumstance calls for it. But the Rock is special. He's been with you for a long time, and you will always treat him with utmost respect. Taz, admire poster of Hulk Hogan. The man himself. Starting from the bottom, Terrence Bollea was eventually tossed into a resent-grade torture Fort Key match following a disagreement with his hero and recently instated Fort Master, the champion of the Ruthless Expeditionary Knockout Tournament, over the ruthless nature of his facial hair. Several gruesome hours later, and he was able to murder his powerful assailant and take the key from his neck, emerging victorious and taking the Fort Master title for himself. All of this without activating his follower Choco Voodoo. Not even for a second, a previously unseen display of martial prowess, and one that has never been replicated since. After he was baptized with the blood of his former high brother, he gave himself the name Hulk Hogan, and got started on his rather ambitious quest to personally meet his makers. This story is common knowledge within the Murthamaniac ranks. You know it, and everybody else knows it too, because the Hulkster goes on and on about the Hulk mania he's inspired every night on his talk show. You can actually hear it blaring down from your TV downstairs right now, as tuning in into the channel is mandatory. The guy has single-handedly overtaken the creed on ego and blind devotion alone. Not even his sacrilegious team-up with those harbingers from a rival faith did anything to shake off the spell he seems to have cast on his fanbase. And let's not even get started on the whole helping usher in a way of demons from the horrorcore dimension thing. As much as you can respect his tenacity, one day you just might have to kill him for all of this. Taz, examine weapon cabinet. This is where you keep all of your options for taking down opponents. This collection of tools made for bodily destruction and generalized murder fests includes, but is not limited to, 1. Long ball mace, your preferred weapon. 1. Mouth gasher. 1. Pair of skin-piercing handcuffs. 1 row of needlepoint gags. 1 torture fork belt, sans the actual torture fork. 1 palm decimator, and the most potent device of them all. 1 Ferocity weaver. This one holds special memories for you. All of this and more in a single easy-to-reach compartment. And at some point, you've made it even easier to reach by breaking the glass with your fist instead of opening the door. Your younger self was quite the practical visionary. Taz, use Ferocity Weaver. You got a little out of hand with the Ferocity Weaver. Taz, check damage. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. You have a rather nasty habit of making the same mistakes over and over again, against your better judgment. It's kind of your thing. It appears someone from the fodder is trying to message you. Weren't you set to incognizable? You're supposed to not receive messages at all with that setting turned on. Ugh. It's not like this thing has ever performed its supposed function. And knowing who's talking, he'd probably have found a way to bypass those settings regardless, even if they worked as intended. This guy is one of the better ones. You like him. Taz, answer troll. Unclassed Kahuna began trolling Pernicious Overkill. Hey, what's poppin', clown bounce? Best get yourself tightened up and your jigglers packed the fuck in. Cause shit do I got the legit to ignite one hell of a fire inside your brain matter. Ready to start going off when you start getting down. Do you really think that it's acceptable to just message me whenever you want? I think it's clear that I had my program on this setting precisely so you could not do that. And yet you still did. You're lucky I was even here to see this. I was just about to take care of something important and wouldn't have been able to get back to you for a while. What would have you done with yourself then? Cool. So you done now? What? No, I'm not done. Why don't you just fucking wait when you can plainly see that I'm not done? You interrupted me when I did not want or expect to be disturbed. So you're going to deal
with the consequences.
Okay, so you're done now. And I'm just gonna keep talking because it's my turn.
God fucking alright, I guess.
So, I finally completed my life's work here. Sweeps and sweeps of decoding and encryption and searching for funny looking rocks give me some goddamn reassurance that this actually has a big league choice of action. Also, no offense to rocks. By the way, tell the little man what it is from me.
Okay.
Yo, Malaroffle. Nah, see, you still not getting the grand scope of all the pictures I'm tossing your direction. It's like I'm just slamming pics and rubbing them all over and smear my good name so you can get the pics, but you're just standing there all cold-faced and big-breasted. Gotta let me work here, bitch carney. The picture that I'd like to see is the one that shows me what the actual shit you're talking about. Talking up the fact that I put the pieces of the rigorous underground hell machine together and got clued into the matrix of eye-openers through. Well, let's just call my man here an informant. Knew him from way back when. Sourced me into my being P-much. And how he sourced me more time for good measure, but he said this was my last tip-off. Hint was that this place was rotten, and he said in a narratorially tone of serious business. So he's not playing any games. But we are. Every single thing that you're saying still just sounds like a bunch of pointless claptrap. Which I don't want to hear. And I don't really think that I care anyways. But I'll give you, one more go at to properly explain why you're trying so hard to sell me on this. Got all this figured out, but I need you to pair with high fructose for this. 'Cause to be honest, you's getting dragged in whether you in or you out.
You better not be talking about who I think you're talking about.
Damn straight I'm talking about the Arc Man. Please do me a solid rep and get over yourself so we can get these balls moving fast, 'cause soon we're on the clock.
No. Never. Not going to happen.
Pernicious Overkill gave up trolling unclapsed Kahuna. Taz set online status to cloying. Oh well, the floodgates were pretty much open already. This program is so unbelievably shitty. Your status wasn't making that much of a difference. Might as well leave yourself officially open to the rest of the crowd if they feel like going a little wild. Your Scorp theme is Hogan's Heroes. You really wish you could scrub off all these fouled watermarks off and replace them with somebody who's not a pious, ego-gargling sellout. Speaking of, Taz, go downstairs. Taz, examine bar. You notice 2 unopened bottles of pinfall fuel and an Ambrosian meat slab. Cooked just the way you like it.
Raw.
You can't settle in for a nice meal right now, though. You have an appointment, and that appointment consists of laying a mental smackdown in the general direction of a loudly televised, obnoxious in-group hersey. There you are. Taz, deploy smackdown. Look at you, you filthy, degenerate piece of mat scum. You sold yourself out for the price of absolutely nothing. Like some sort of leftover rotten food implement at the discount bin with a misguided delusions of grandeur. Disgusting. This little trend you started of others mindlessly treading at your heels is as unctuous as the al dente grain worms you shove down the open maw of the gullible masses. You will fall. If not by the righteous hands of the 2 above, then you will personally relay a clean finish to the slate of this world and the next, as far as your autocratic career is concerned. The go-away heat just keeps getting hotter for you. Taz. Admire Championship Prizes.
This bout is among the first of many you've taken home with you in the 2-sweep time period since your professional bouts began. You have to begrudgingly acknowledge your status as a crowd pleaser. Most of your bouts, outside of those won for various key matches and Scramble Royales, are awards for high performance and outstanding technique. As the current Fort Raiser, you were expected to take your victim's borderline unrecognizable remains back to your hive for display purposes. You don't know the first fucking thing about taxidermy, though. So you decided to reconstruct and solidify his corpse with concrete instead. You do have a friend who's reasonably knowledgeable on the subject, but you're not exactly a fan of asking for help on the best of days. You'd like to think you managed to do a pretty good job regardless. Well, it appears that you have a problem now. Taz, investigate Scree. What? Oh, you motherfucker. Your custodian really has the entire dynamic of your relationship ass backwards. She likes to think of herself as the semi-aquatic queen of your hive, yourself, and also the entire planet while she's at it. Everything is her property, including the next match you pick had been stowing away in your fort for later, whenever duty called for the next mandated sacrifice. Poor sucker. You can't help but feel sorry that he wound up down there, and also here in general, with you. At least he looks a lot better than what would have happened once you got your hands on him in the middle of the fighting ring. His carcass didn't even land in the black depths. It wasn't always this way. Many centennia ago, your planet used to boast a caste of aristocrats, whose duties included looking after the state of the oceans. During the Renaissance, however, these lineages were all but exterminated, viciously and without warning, by a self-proclaimed tyrant who wished to seize the throne and rule with an iron fist as the only one of his kind. Nowadays, the remnants of the old sea hierarchy amount to barely 0.1% of the world's population. And that figure is dwindling as it is, due to the general environmental collapse. Most bodies of water have only further degraded with the passage of time. Your whole species eventually gaining an instilled aversion to any and all forms of it. There was a lawless period in the history of your planet where all manner refuse, ranging from regular garbage to toxic waste and chemical mixtures, was unceremoniously dumped into the sea in the name of progress, using as some sort of dross receptacle. As a result, you have to force your Lucis to stay away from her natural habitat, and with no way to keep her mind from the call of the wild, she becomes horribly stir-crazy. Better this than the alternative. This cocktail of hazardous substances has mutated harmless sea creatures into monstrous cannibalistic carnivores that feast on the flesh of their own. Unholy beasts with extra eyes and wiggling appendages lurk in these brackish waters, waiting to strike at the slightest opportunity. One man, a tempestuous bout of assisted violence, and sweeps later, the world still has open wounds to show for it. Which brings you back to people like you. With the overpopulation of low-bloods running amok, someone has to thin the numbers out. Or so the creed goes. Reasons like these are why you can't bring yourself to care as much as you'd like to. Reasons like these are why you won't ever apologize for the necessary, painful truths You have to tell.